Hi, I'm Kiki,
And I'm Kemi.
and you're listening to
Your advisors will see you now, a podcast that will help you to figure out all of your options for life after high school. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. If you are tuning in today is one of our little series that we call Relevant Rambles. And a relevant ramble is any topic in higher education that we find relevant to ramble about. So today, our topic is, some people might be surprised based on this topic, that what our beliefs about this, but we believe that college is not for everyone. And I know a lot of people are like, really? Like, why would you say that? A lot of your topic is geared towards higher ed. Da, 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 da. Well, our topics are geared towards higher ed, but all options for life after high school. And we want to kind of break that down to kind of like a little think piece of sorts about our interpretation of it, of us working in higher ed and seeing people and seeing students that have maybe rushed into going into college right away and it wasn't a right fit for them. Or, I mean, we're going to break it all down, but I think like the biggest thing that comes to mind, and Kiki will definitely join in, is not all careers necessarily require that you go straight to a 4 year or mostly, or let me backtrack. The thought piece was, especially for like millennials and before then, it was like you need to go to a 4 year college once you go out of high school. And once you do that, it equates to a degree. And so a lot of people like from our generation before were like, okay, well, 4 year college it is. Then that was the thought process. And that was really it. Maybe we had a light idea of the career we wanted to go into, but some of us didn't really know like the specifics of it. You know what I mean? And I think that still kind of trails into now too, based on some of my experience with students that I've had in my office that I was like, they were saying like, oh, I want to do this career, or like, oh, I want to go into sales. I
Mhm.
was like actual regular sales, like you
Mhm.
want to be a salesperson, like yeah. And I was like,
You don't need to go to school.
you didn't even have to go to school for that. You could
Mhm.
have went right into the career field. There's also some places that will train you on how their specific sales are and then
Mhm.
pay for that, and then or they'll take a chunk of like your sales after that.
Yeah.
So some people just don't understand that there's, depending on what you want to do, there's alternate routes. So that was the biggest piece that we want to discuss first.
Right. Yeah, and I used to straight up tell students, they would come in and say things like that. They want to be in sales or I want to own a business. And they would tell me they already have this business. Like they already have a business. They already
Mhm.
have like they're already on social media promoting their t-shirts or whatever their product is. And they're like, I want to come get a business degree. And I would straight up tell them, like, I got to a point where I was like, you don't need to be in college for that degree. And,
Mhm.
but I also would say, I understand if you want it for, if you want to be the sole runner of your business, you want to do the accounting, you want to do the marketing, you want to do all aspects of it, then great. A degree, especially an associate's degree, they tend to give you like the basics and also some other, you can take like your introduction to business classes, your basically your intro classes, and then some like sales or marketing classes or like social media marketing so you can know how to do your business. But I would tell them you're probably going to at some point hire people to do all that for you. So
Mhm.
I understand
Exactly.
you wanting to get a degree, and I wasn't there to discourage them. Like as an advisor, that was not my job. It's just to give you like to make your brain think, oh, maybe I don't need to go to school for this. And we're not saying that we're not obviously like Kemi just said it. We're not against education here. Like we absolutely are in favor of being educated, but it's more we want your education to work for you down the line. And going back
Mhm.
to your point too about millennials, which is us, go being told I would say more like the older millennials and then us too, but the older millennials graduated in the middle of a recession, so they were
Mhm.
being told, no one probably really saw that coming. I'm sure people in finance did, but people didn't see that coming. Like your college guidance counselor, your parents, your teachers didn't know like, oh, we're gonna be in a recession in 2008. But they're just saying you should go to college, get your 4 year degree, and then they graduated in the middle of a recession where there's no jobs like that. And so
Mhm.
I feel like that was kind of the trend for
Mhm.
for us coming after too. But you
Yep.
and I always say it like with our degrees, we were, I don't even know if I had a career goal back then. I did, and then I changed it, and then I went into political
Mhm.
science. And it's like that's a degree only offered at a 4-year school. But we kind of always talk about how we wish we would have maybe gone into a degree that would have worked
Mhm.
better for us. Because like I didn't go to law school or I didn't really do anything with my political science degree. Not to say like nothing, but I didn't really use it in the way that I was intended to use it. I could have, looking back, I could have done something like public administration or tagged on a business degree or
Mhm.
something that can be a little bit more broad. And so I think our point is to like about there's like a level of maturity which I probably wasn't even ready to go to college back then.
Yeah, we
Like
we gonna touch on that because 'cause I'm telling you,
yeah,
that's a whole 'nother
yeah,
thing to dive into.
yeah.
But,
We'll get to that. You're right. We'll get to that. But I think the another point is to like just sending a student or a 17, 18-year old to college and they really don't know what they want to do and they get to college, a 4-year school, and they maybe, get a little buck wild. School's not a priority.
mhm.
So they're struggling there. That goes to the point of maturity, but they also just they're kind of like acting out because they don't know what they're there for. Like they feel like they
Yeah.
have no purpose at school. So they're like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna hang out with my friends. Like, I'll go to class and I'll do what I need to do, but I'm not really into this because they're not really passionate about it, or they're like an
Mhm.
undecided student, or they chose a major just because their parents told them to, and so they really don't have a sense of why they're at school.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's probably a lot of people's
Yeah.
dilemma. It's just like, well, why am I here? Because they really
Right.
don't know what their interests are, and that's what we always kind of harp on is like help your kids figure out their interests or
First,
students
yeah.
figure out your interests before you even leave for school. It'll save
Yeah.
you money.
No, it will, and looping honestly, it goes right into my next point about money, right? Because I will kinda sorta defend this, like, millennials and before us, right? Well, the old I forgot what the generation is before millennials, but some of their parents, maybe they didn't go to college. Maybe a lot of
Mhm.
them were, did more jobs or they were working, like, in factories or they worked their way up in some
Mhm.
industries, and then that's when they started to think, like, their ticket was like, "Oh, well, go to college." That will equate to more money back then. And also back then too, grants paid for a lot more money for a large part of tuition than it did today. Because I remember
Mm,
looking, it was
mhm.
like close to
Yeah.
70% of like a 4-year college tuition. It covered like the tuition, the room and board and their books. So
Mhm.
back then it was like, yeah, well, why not go to college? That makes sense.
Well, it
Versus
also didn't
today,
cost $40,000 to go to school
e-
back then.
exactly. So it
Yeah.
didn't cost as much money. And also you
Mhm.
had grants that covered a bunch of it. So you didn't have to be in crazy loan debt like we do now.
Exactly.
And there didn't have to be as much strategic planning. So in simple words, like go to college equates to this because it was so simple. Now it's more,
Mhm. You're right.
there's more than that. You have to really think of, and before we even hopped on this call, I was like, whenever I have kids, I'm probably going to be like, you should probably go to trade school first or take a gap year or go to community college first and then go to a 4-year after you figured out what your path is, just because a lot of people are pivoting careers now. So I don't want you to go straight to a 4-year college and spend money like $1,000. Maybe I'm being egregious, but there's probably some out there that $1,000 for a gen ed course, which is like
Mm.
the history of the 1920s,
Mhm.
versus you could get that same class for cheaper at a community college for like $200.
Right. Mhm.
So, I would probably do it that way more strategically. And then later on, they're still saving more money. If they want to go back to school, then they can. But it's save more now so that later on, if you want to change careers, you want to change your interests, go for it. But yeah.
Mhm. Well, you and I too, like we both went to, like college prep or like we went to private schools. So
Hmm.
I remember I never even knew like the community college I just worked for, like I
Hmm.
never even knew like, it really existed because that was
Hmm.
never a conversation piece from our guidance counselors. They were
Right.
never like, "Oh, you're going to go, you should look at the community college too." They never
Yeah, I
even
don't
really
remember
talked about
that.
like gap year. I don't even remember them having
I never
military
heard of
come.
a gap year
Yeah, no,
until like,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, last probably several years for me. But I just always think back and even with AP classes, I did IB. I didn't even get the diploma, so my mom wasted her money. But I think back, I don't really feel like I understood like what the purpose of them were. Like I knew it was to get college
Mhm.
credit,
Mhm.
but let's even like take it back even further. I didn't even know what it took to get a college degree, Like
Right.
and I'm sure none of us did. Like, no
And
matter
some
if your
people still don't
parents
know. Some people still don't know
exactly,
the difference
you're in
between gen
college.
eds or
You're right.
yeah,
People
yeah,
in classes not even quite sure what and when I say, like, what it takes to get a degree, like, all the little what the credits mean. People don't know what credits mean. People don't know what
100%.
you're like
Yeah,
you said, gen eds versus, like, your major requirements.
right.
So, telling me, "Oh, take a AP or IB class," I just I knew there was some value in it, but I didn't really understand why. I knew I was getting college credit, but didn't really understand, like, how much it really would have made a difference in me going to a 4-year school and not having to be there for 4 years possibly.
Right. And we
Which
didn't
I
get that
have
out of prep school. We didn't even get that out of private schools.
yeah,
I
I
didn't
don't
know
even
that.
know. I'm like, looking back, I'm like, what were they preparing me for? Like, yes, for college. I think maybe more in terms of the academics.
Mhm.
I guess like that's what they were preparing me for. Like, private schools are a little bit more like higher rigor of
Mhm.
learning. And so that's probably what it prepared me for. But I still feel like I didn't get the life lesson that I maybe needed to in
Mhm.
high school. Like, or even just like the college prep in terms of, is college for you? That was never a conversation. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, you're at the school, you're going to college.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember not one. I was in a class of like 120 people. I'm sure it's a small tube, like 120 students. I don't remember not one person not going to a 4-year school.
Mhm.
Like looking back at my graduation program, everybody had a college beside their name because it just wasn't what's it called? It was like a faux pas to go anywhere but college, from that
Yes.
school. But I think I told you one time, like when I was at in advising, this student was with her dad, and we were doing like a new student advising session, and she came in, and I was like, "Oh, you don't have your transcript, so we can't give you classes." But I said, "Oh, where do you go to high school?" And she was like, she said the school, and I was like, "Oh, I went there," and I was just so amazed
Yeah.
that a student from this private school was coming to a community college, like was considering a community college.
Right.
I know this sounds like so bougie. This sounds so bougie, but they didn't talk about that to us. It was
No,
like
they
college or
didn't.
bust.
They didn't. I'll even be like totally percent transparent with this conversation. I'll never forget. It was me and I'm not sure. You probably met Jocelyn. You met Jocelyn at my wedding.
Hmm.
But so me and Jocelyn were in class. We were juniors, and then a senior came in. It was like the end of the school year where sometimes like seniors are saying like their goodbyes, and you're not really
Oh
doing
yeah, yeah.
anything in class anyway. And then so a teacher was like, "Yeah, so do you know where you're going?" She goes, "I'm gonna go to community college." And then you should have seen like me and Jocelyn looked at each other, and some other people were like, "She's gonna go to community." Like that's how
Hmm.
much it was ingrained in us. That was like
Yeah.
we need to go to a 4. I had no idea about even what a trade school was back then. I had no
Oh
idea that was a
no.
thing. I didn't know that
Mm,
existed. You know,
no.
that's how ingrained it was. And then it's so funny because like fast forward to now, the last time I saw Jocelyn like a couple months ago, we brought up that situation. We're like, yeah, that girl was smart. She was a
I
smart
mean,
one
for
out of us.
real. I mean,
She
she
went, saved
probably
some cash, whatever she's doing
exactly,
now. She saved more money than we did automatically.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
we did.
it was like derogatory, and it's like why? And so I hope
Mhm.
that now, like after seeing that one girl, I had hope. I was like, I really do hope that not even if the school doesn't want to talk about it, that's great. I hope the parents know. And I
Mm,
think I'm sure for like our parents, they just had high aspirations for us. And
mhm.
not to say that in community college is absolutely a high aspiration, but I think just back then, just
Yeah,
based on like our parents' generation,
yeah.
maybe they're
And
living
my
through
dad.
us.
My dad
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
he's
Maybe
Nigerian,
they're
y'all.
yeah, and that's gonna be a doctor. But
A doctor
maybe
or
yeah.
engineer.
I think a little bit is living vicariously through us of what they did not do. I think
Right.
I can say that from my experience. But I working at community college, I was humbled. And I'm sure you worked at like a trade school. It just is
Mhm.
humbling because it's like, oh wow, like they're out here getting great educations and going into high paying careers. Like we
Mhm.
always like laughed at my job in advising. We were advising students that were gonna make way more money
More
than we
money
were.
than us.
Way more money than us. So
Yes. There was
it's crazy.
I could tell you. The training school I worked at, there was this girl that came out and she came back and she talked like because there wasn't many girls in the automotive program, so she came back
Mhm.
into like girls discussion And she was talking how she does PM, which is like preventative maintenance on like I think
Mm.
diesel engines and stuff,
Mhm.
and like her scheduling, and like she was talking about how much she got paid. I was like, maybe I need to sign up for some courses. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're getting paid more money than I'm doing right now advising y'all.
Mhm.
And but again, I had no idea that trade schools existed. If I
Yeah.
would go back in time, I feel like I might have gotten my hands dirty in a in a trade skill
Mm.
because you also have something that you could like if it was even mechanics, I could work on my own car. And then two, I could work for someone else, but if I want to go somewhere, there's cars everywhere. I could be my own entrepreneur if I want to. So,
Exactly. But I mean, well, that's a good point right there too. Like women in trades, like there's not. I think now it's probably getting a little bit more. Like I see, riding down the street here in Charlotte, they're building. I think it's probably everywhere. They build on every corner of the earth here in Charlotte. But I see a lot more women in construction, and
mhm,
we talked to my friend Megan is a great example. But I'm like, oh, this is becoming more of a thing for women. But there's so many other trades out there, and if you're a young lady not sure what she wants to do, look into trades because
mhm.
they probably have a lot of, like, going back to your point about grants. I'm sure they have a lot of money out
Yes,
there
it
for
was. Yeah.
women in like trades and or engineering even, which engineering
Mhm,
can be a 4 year, it could be a bachelor's or associate's degree pathway. But just think about women in trades and technology, how it's a male dominated field. Diversity is a big thing. So they probably will have money out there for you to go to school. But I just say
mhm,
consider. You're right. Like even just knowing how to do simple things. Like we had this guy come the other day. I feel bad for him. Well, I told him I was like, we need our oven fixed, and he was like, I don't do ovens. And I told him what I needed, but he was like, I didn't know it was gonna be that. He's like, I don't do ovens, but he's like, I do electricity, like electrical wiring. I was like, okay. I felt
mhm,
bad because he came out here and I gave
mhm.
him a little bit of money for his troubles, but I was like, "Oh, we have a light that needs to be fixed. Can you fix the light, please?"
Yeah.
And he came up there. He was like, "Well, yeah, I have a ladder. I'll get it." And so he went up there to like drill it, like take it out. He was like, it almost fell on his head because it was so loose. I didn't know. I was like,
Wow.
"Look, I was like, we just live in the house." I was like, "I don't know how to take care of a house. Like, I don't know." But
Right.
even like little things, like
Yeah.
I wish I would have known to do like how to do like electrical wiring or
Mhm.
fix something, myself. It
So.
would save so much money. Or like you said, like do an oil change, fix our
Mhm,
cars. Even just those are skills that we all should have. But
mhm.
I was like, back then I was probably like, I'm not doing that.
Mhm.
Now, and we can still learn these things. We're still young. We can
Yeah.
still learn. But it's also like beyond just having a job in that. It's just like know skills for yourself.
Mhm.
But maybe you go to college. Maybe I think you just mentioned like you probably would have gone to trade school first. Maybe you
Mhm.
would have done trade school. You would have learned, let's say, electrical wiring or become an electrician. Just saying that, and then you're like, you know what? That's not for me right now. I want to go to a 4 year school. You go to a 4 year school. You have your career in. I'm just gonna throw out there business because it's in my head. And then you're like, oh, well, I have my electrician skills. You can
Mhm.
go do that as a side job. Like you
Mhm.
can do like little things. Like it's just like you can maximize your
Mhm.
kind of your cash flow if you have a little bit of a side gig
Yeah.
in a trade, because I feel like those are jobs that people don't want, but we all need it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's just like, dang, looking back, I wish I would have like known how to do something. Like
Yeah.
do something
And then
like
yeah. And then even
mhm.
talking about maximizing your cash flow too, because there's some I think your community college does automotive too, right?
Mhm.
So then it's like you could even see if there's community colleges that have trades, go there, and then like, oh, well, I'm finished with it now. And then I think you said they also have business as an associate's for your school or something
Mhm.
like that too. So then you're still saving money doing that within a community college. So
I saw a number of students that would get like multiple degrees, which actually is very smart
mm,
because the college didn't take loans, so you were only going on either grants or
hmm
your own, out of pocket, or scholarships, of course. But imagine if you didn't use all your grant money
yeah,
in your first degree, you can come back for another degree
yeah,
and maybe another degree. I saw a number of students get multiple degrees, and sometimes in the same field, sometimes in different fields, and that's impressive because you now have multiple skills that can go on your resume, and you're gonna look a little bit more competitive for employers. So that's the benefit. Like no one's really going back to get a bachelor's degree multiple times. People do it, but it's not cheap unless someone's paying for it for you. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But
Shoot, I
you know,
wouldn't do that either. At that point, you
mm-mm,
might as well get a master's to see if they'll,
exactly.
yeah,
But to
the
go back to get an associate's degree 2 3 times, you still paid way less than a 4 year. I mean, you've
mhm,
maybe $15,000 for 3 degrees.
yeah,
I
and I
think
think
I think that's good.
it is. But the unfortunate thing I will say this because we'll leave this out is the thing that does suck is, you know, I love our college experience, and I think
Mhm.
that was the best part about
Absolutely.
school was the
Yeah,
college experience.
absolutely.
I'm not hooting and hollering about that class
And
was
no
I did have
regrets.
yeah, I did have some cool classes or whatever, but I'm not gonna be like, "Yo, I was so happy to get back on campus to crack open a book." No,
Let's see my
I
friends. Yeah, see each
I was
other and
here
like
to,
see our
like,
friends.
crack up with my friends, like, crack up over some giggles or whatever, but, and the college experience is nice, and I think it was great because you kinda get this level of independence and you're growing into young adulthood, right? So I think that that's such a blessing, and I if higher education, if four-year schools were affordable like they were back in the day, then I would if I had a child at this point, I'd be like, "Okay, well, yeah, then go ahead. It's just a killer experience to have, and it's okay because it's affordable. It's okay." But it's not like that anymore. So it's like, nah, if you really have major goals when you grow up, if you really want to have a house or you want to have a certain lifestyle, I'm not gonna say like, oh yeah, blow all your money first on a four-year school if you're not even sure of
Mhm.
the degree or the specific outcome you want to do. So, um, which is unfortunate. So you have to be more wise now with the spending. And then I think this might be a good chance to pivot into our other discussion in terms of like spending. College, we also think college may not be a good fit or maybe yet because of the level of maturity.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, the biggest thing that really hurts my stomach working in higher ed is you have some students that come in and I think that I've definitely had some students where it seemed like I had a conversation with them and it was like I was like, "Did your parents just drop you off in the car?" I was like, "You had no idea how four-year school works?" Like
Yep.
legitimately. And
This
it's like you don't know your reason why you're here,
mhm.
what career field you're trying to go into. This student was like, "I never heard no one ever talk to me about gen eds." And I was like, "And you were only talking to four-year schools?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, they did." I was like, "That's part of the program."
Yep.
Um, I was like, "No, that's in there. That's in you even get that little, what are those books that you have to get,
The catalog.
the catalog, you get that." Um, but the biggest piece about it is you have some students that just come in and in their freshman year, they're not they're not ready, whether it be mature wise, to focus on their own time management and discipline, that they end up
Mhm.
failing out. And if they fail out, they don't understand that they still have to pay for that bill and they don't have a
Right.
degree with it. So now you have X amount of
Mhm.
money you have to owe back, no degree to even try to look for a job with. And then two, what was the other one? It was or you'll have some students, like, again, we talked about before, they're like, "I'm just gonna go to four-year college and figure it out." It's like and then they'll be into their junior year, and they're like, "Dang, I really don't even like this career anymore, this idea
Right.
anymore." And
Mhm.
it's like, "Well, you invested all this time, now you gotta follow through with it." So, that's the part that really hurts my heart, but the biggest one is definitely the academic one. It's like,
Mhm.
you'll have some students that come in, and they're just not mature, not ready for it, or or the other sad thing is, like, you have some students that they'll they'll allow to come to school, but maybe the school doesn't have enough resources, and they don't have,
Mm.
like, the wherewithal for the study practices, and it's like sometimes there's definitely some schools that accept students that they probably shouldn't accept.
Mm.
Because then you see these students, and they're like, "This student was not gonna stand a chance past 2 semesters." Like, you
Yeah.
know that they're having a difficulty formulating regular email sentences,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you see their SAT score, like not their SAT, but you see some of their grades on a transcript
Yeah.
that come, and it's like, why did you try to push the student to come in to fit a metric, and now
It's
they're
a
failing,
business.
and
Yeah.
now, especially if they're in an underserved population, this money's going to hit them harder
Mhm.
because
Right.
they're going to fail out, not be able to come back, and now they have a huge bill for, and maybe their family doesn't have the resources to help them pay off that
Mhm.
bill. So it's like there needs to be more, I think, better handling with that. So
Yeah, better handling, better guidance for sure. I
yeah.
think the biggest thing is just intentionality, like being intentional in decisions. And again,
Mm-hmm.
as a 17, 18-year-old, we know, 'cause we've been there. I don't think I was being intentional. I just knew I was going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a career aspiration, but the way to get there, I didn't connect the dots on like how to get to that career
Yeah.
aspiration. But you're right. Like saying, did your parents just drop you off here today? I had plenty of students, and like, at a community college, there were the traditional students that I saw that I'm like, you could tell they're kind of being forced.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're in high school, you're about to graduate, you need to go to college, and they're being forced to come to community college. And then there were the students that were older, that
Mm-hmm.
left, finished high school and decided to go into the workforce, and now they're wanting to come get a degree. But I could tell sometimes, and I mean, I said it in my head, but I'm like, I can tell you just woke up this morning and came to school. Because the community college, it's rolling admission. Anybody can come in at any time. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're just like sitting there talking. They're like, well, I want to do this, but I want to do this. And then I want to do this, and then I want to do this. And it was not like there was no clarity. There was no harmony in their in their plans. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, not being rude or not being harsh, but I was like, well, what's your goal here today? Like, what is the
Yeah.
goal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
You have to. You have to ask
you
that
have
question.
you
So
have yeah, you have to ask like, what's the goal of this session? Because if I don't know what you want to do, you don't know what you want to do, how can I give you classes? Because
or clarity.
it's or clarity. And sometimes it would be students that had been gone for several years, and it's okay not to know what you want to do. Like, we're all still figuring out what we want to do. But it was like they'd be gone for several years, and they'd done all their gen eds at the time they were here, and they were like, well, this is not for me right now. And they come back and still unsure of what they want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point I'm like, well, you've done all your gen ed, so what do you want to, like, I don't want to give you classes and you not knowing what you want to do, because that may be a waste of your time to do a whole semester of classes, and then you don't want to be a chef, or you don't want to be in hospitality management, and so you've done 5 classes this semester that are
Mm-hmm.
kind of a waste towards your goal. And so it was also me having just, and I'm sure you had to do the same thing, just having to be or with people, be upfront that we don't want you to waste your time here. And
Mm-hmm.
so, let's go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
And like you said about resources, like, use your resources, use career services, use the internet to see, how can I get to this? Like, what are ways to get to certain careers? If you have
Yeah.
5 careers, that's 5 careers in mind, that's fine. Write them down and figure out what it takes to get to those careers. Because we
Mm-hmm.
mentioned too, we've mentioned like trade and community college, but maybe you want to go to the military. The military will pay for you to go to school,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll teach you things in the military. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you want to take a gap year and you want to just, maybe you want to travel, maybe you want to do internships, maybe you want to shadow people. I mean, there's a multitude of ways to learn skills, or to even
Yeah.
figure out what's out there that don't cost like an arm and a leg. So
Right.
that's really what we're trying to share, is we just want people to be intentional in their decisions, because decisions can be costly. And so we just want you all to not have to
Yeah.
spend too much money making a decision that is not what you want.
Yeah. And I think this is actually the perfect plug for we're actually in the process of writing a little book. So that way it can help you unfog how to figure out, okay, what career are you interested in? And then kind of helping you unfog the pathway to get there.
Mhm.
So that way you're not just like, oh, someone said I gotta go to 4-year college. That's why I showed up here. And it's like, what you here for? I want to be a real estate
Right.
agent. Um, no, you don't have to be
Right.
like, it's like you didn't have to come to 4-year college to be a real estate agent.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. But and I do try to understand on the other foot, right? Where like if there's like sometimes people just don't know where to begin their research.
Yeah,
But at
absolutely.
least I even try to say, you know what? Even though you don't even know where to start, even go on Google and say, not sure where to start on
Mhm.
X. Just
Yeah.
even start there to
Mhm.
give you at least a hint towards what direction to go to. Because
Yeah.
there's there's so much ample information out there, but I do understand that sometimes you can be overwhelmed. You're like, I don't even know where to begin or what specific resources to look for, but at least even try to throw it in a Google search and see what comes up. That will
Yeah.
help you at least a little bit, you know.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I think the biggest thing is too just doing your research. Like let me tell you, as an advisor, even career counselors, like even if you're undecided, going to a career counselor, don't expect your advisor or career counselor to be talking to you for 30 minutes and then at the end of it they're like, "Oh, this is the career for you." Like that's not
Mhm,
what the sessions are for. It's
mhm,
we're there to provide guidance and help you reach your goal. And if you don't have a goal, that's okay. Like you said, get on the internet and just it's all about just doing your research, which is what I did not do enough of. Our podcast, we want you to learn from our mistakes. I feel like I did not do enough research. I wanted to be a
mhm,
physical therapist, had never even been to one before. I'd been to like, and looking back, I was like, oh no, I worked with athletic trainers. I didn't go to physical therapists. I worked with trainers
mm.
who, were helping me get back to good health, from a sports injury. But I never knew I knew physical therapists work with athletes, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. But I can tell you, I didn't sit down and research any of that. I didn't research what it takes to go to physical therapy school. I didn't research what they actually do. It was just like, I'm going to college and I'll figure it out when I get there. I honestly think it's too late to be figuring it out when you get there. But again, we understand students go undecided. That's absolutely fine. But I'm getting at have some things like you can't, like I said, you can't go to your advisor, you can't go to your the guy career counselor and say like, I don't know what I want to do, because
It's
we're
like,
gonna
then why'd you come
say
here? Like, or
basically we're gonna
like,
be like, well, what can I do for you then? And not like not being
yeah,
snarky, but like I think I think students are like, oh, this is gonna be a session where they tell me what my life is supposed to be, and nobody can tell you that. Now, Kemi and I are believers. If you believe in Jesus Christ, then sure, Jesus
mhm.
may tell you this is what your life goal is. But but
Sometimes
we're
that may take
saying
time because I
that
feel
may
like I
take
just
time. Oh yeah,
'cause I
absolutely. I
feel like
feel
I
you.
just found out for myself what it looks like now, and I'm
Yeah.
37.
Oh, exactly,
But, you know?
exactly. But
But
the what I'm saying is like it takes work on your end too to try to get some ththings together. So
yeah,
if you are undecided, you can go to your counselor or your advisor, but have some things in mind. Because if you
mhm,
say, I'm thinking about being a vet, I'm thinking about being a dentist, I'm thinking about being an accountant. That's
mhm,
three things right there.
yeah,
And they can sit down, they can work with that. They can say, like, oh,
right,
well, what about these things is interesting to you? What do you like about these jobs? What do you know about these jobs? And so then you can have a conversation about why the like one or the other may be a good fit for you.
yeah,
But if you're just going there and like, I don't know what I want to do, well, we don't know what you want to do either. So it's just like, have a
and
plan.
and even to add on to that too, if you're just coming to school and you have, like, no idea, like, not even 3, like, career ideas that you're going into, there's no motivation there. Like, what's the
Hmm.
motivation for you to really even show up for a gen ed, like a I don't know, a social studies class? It's like you don't even know your goal of what you want out of going to this community college or going to
Yeah.
this 4-year school.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like if there's no goal, then you're not able to see, well, what's the motivation for me to get to what? Because you don't even know what you're trying to get to.
Hmm.
And that's the point where it's like, well, it's too expensive to play that game. Like, take a
Exactly.
gap year or something. Um, do some maybe like a career test online. They have like career coaches out there,
Yes.
or just to get some clarity, or just write down a list of things that you enjoy and then maybe research what those go into. But you need to have some semblance of a goal because I'm telling you right now, if a parent's just like, you need to go to 4-year and you don't even have any idea what to go to, I've seen those students too. And then it's like, I'm trying, and you have these conversations like, I don't even know what I want to do. And it's like, there's only but so much anybody at a university can do if they're gonna
Hmm.
fail out. You
Right.
know, it's like at that time when you're at that age, it's like you're expected that you need to go to classes and fulfill your
Hmm.
duties of doing your work. I can't motivate
Exactly.
you for that.
Right.
And I think that's also different from like some high schools. Some high schools, some students will kind of fail and also maybe pass them through by doing some things. Certain schools, if you keep on getting Fs, you're done. You're kicked out. That's it. Your money's gone. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. They're not gonna you can sit
Hmm.
here and have another meeting, like, "Is there anything else I can do?" "No, we've had this. We've given you a letter. We told you to go here. You didn't do it. This is not a good fit for you." There's some
Hmm.
schools, not throwing shade, but I am, that will keep pedaling you along if you're failing.
Mhm.
But you don't want those because you go in debt. Um, so it's good to go in with a goal. It's always good to go in with a goal because then you can have clarity of the steps to get there, and then you know whether you're getting closer, far away, or not. So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Coach Kenny
just
talk.
that's Coach Kemi for real. But yeah, just the internet is gonna be your best friend. And I always tell students, I'm like, YouTube, if you get on YouTube and type in day in the life, it may not be everything may not be on there, but there are
Mhm.
so many day in the life of XYZ. That's just to give you an idea, and that's why we do our career series, is for people to be able to hear from individuals in certain careers of what they do, just to give you an idea. But maybe when we were going to college, and I don't even think then, maybe 30 years ago, the internet wasn't what it was. You couldn't get on the internet and say like, oh, what does this person do? You had to like talk to people. You had to actually go speak to people, which is not a bad skill. Communication is a great skill to have.
Mhm.
I do encourage people to reach out, have conversations about, oh, what do you do? But if you're not wanting to do that right now, you want to just look it up,
Mhm.
Google, listen to our career series.
Mhm.
There's a number of ways to know, like to find out what people do in their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
The College Board has great resources about what careers are. There's something else. Oh, the occupational handbook
Mhm.
is a product of the government, like the government I think runs that, or the Department of Labor. But it literally lays out thousands of occupations, and it tells you what skills you need, what degree, if you need a degree at all. If you need a degree, sometimes it just says hands-on training or high school diploma. So it'll literally lay out what you need to get to this job and what the job does. So it's not an excuse anymore to say, well, I don't know. I don't know how to understand like what this person in this role does. It's out there, and it's free. So we just want people to understand, okay, you have this goal. What does it take to get to this goal? Is it a 4-year college? Is it community college? Is it trade school? Can I like you mentioned at the beginning, like sometimes there's on the job training. Like they'll hire you and they'll train you and you can move up that way. And then down the line, they may pay for you to go back to school. So we just want people to get educated, getting to good into good jobs with the least amount of debt, if possible, no debt at all. So
Mhm.
that's the point. I was just like kind of thinking at the beginning. Remember that guy that those Everest commercials, and he was like, "You're sitting at home watching TV, thinking, what are you doing with your life?" Something like that. I just thought about that. Did you ever
I
see
don't
those
remember
commercials?
that.
I'm gonna send it
No.
to you. What? I'm gonna send it to you. But I don't know what I was watching back then. What he might have been on MTV, one of those like random stations. But I always like kind of laughed at that because I'm like, I know what I'm doing with my life. No, I didn't. And that was probably like when I was like 12. But I just kind of like laughed it off and like
Yeah.
never really thought, what are you gonna do with your life? You know, like what are you gonna do with your life? He was talking real talk, and
Mhm.
a lot of us missed it. I'm gonna send you his video, but a lot of us
Okay.
missed it. Like, why didn't I? And maybe 12 is like early, but we really should be thinking about. If you can talk, you should be thinking about what you're doing with your life. But just it's never too early to start getting into your interests,
Mhm.
basically. Like my little niece, I always talk about her, but she's 16 now, but she has her little like side culinary business. She bakes, she does like baked goods and things. But what I think is really cool too is she goes to a school where they get you into your intended career. Like she has a career goal to be a in the culinary arena. But it's like
Mhm.
they're in school and they're learning like cooking skills. Like they cook in class. Like they are learning knife skills and like kitchen skills. And there's other programs at the school that I think other like trade, they do that. I think that's really cool. Every school doesn't allow that, but talk to your parents. If you're not sure, talk to your parents. They may have somebody that they can connect you to. We think
Yeah.
it's a good idea to shadow or like, see what people are doing in their day-to-day life or get into your interests. If you have a hobby, if you like to do photography, tell your parents, like ask them, can they get you a camera? You know, get you into a class. Like, your school probably offers photography class. If you have a hobby or interest, lean into it. That's
Mhm.
something. If you like to do graphic design, you like digital media, if you like numbers, you like doing accounting, I don't know.
Some people
Just lean
do.
into it. Yes, people do. But it's like lean into those things. If you like to watch the news, you like to write, you like to be a journalist, or you think you want to be a journalist, like lean into that. And that at least that's something that's like, oh, you're interested in XYZ thing that can maybe
Mhm.
become a job for you later. If it doesn't, that's
Mhm.
okay. But you at least have a
Starting
goal
somewhere.
or
Mhm.
something that you enjoy. So
Yeah,
yeah.
start with something you enjoy. Don't start backwards and you're like, "What's the job that can give me the most money? I'm gonna do it." And then you find out you hate it. And then because then it's like you'll get that job after you pay for all that schooling, and you're like,
Hmm.
"I hate it here."
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
you're gonna start all over again. So just
Yeah.
start with the interest and then see how other ways like that interest could be a career, and how that career could suit your lifestyle too, or other different side, other creative outlets to fund the lifestyle you're looking for within
Yep.
that sphere. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, but
But
that's
yeah.
our that was a ramble. That was a good ramble though. That was a good one. But I'm gonna plug. So I mentioned our career series. We've been doing it for like the last year, maybe a little bit longer. But I
Hmm.
mean, if you just want to hear about, we talk to people in business, talk to people in
Everything.
journalism. What'd you say?
Culinary.
Yeah,
Culinary.
culinary, welding.
Forensic science.
Um, yeah, we talked to a lot of people. So if it's just like you need an inkling, if you're a high school student about to go to college and you just need some inspiration of like what's out there, it's great for you. If you're out of college and looking for a career to pivot into, it's great for anybody, honestly. We learned a
Hmm.
lot about
Oh
careers.
yeah. I learned
Um,
what there's so many careers. I was like, "Oh, you do that? You do that too?"
exactly. Exactly.
I was like, "I had
So
no idea."
that's one plug is our career series. And then we also did a series, this might have been like season one. This is back in the day, but about alternatives to a 4-year college.
Mhm.
So we talked about in like more in depth community college and military, gap year, trade school. So those are just good introductions as well to your other options besides a 4-year. Again, we're not discouraging 4-year education at all. It's just we're encouraging debt-free lifestyles.
Mhm.
So yeah, those
Debt
are our
free.
two plugs. Yes, but this was, hopefully it was very helpful. It was good to like rehash these things to, as you
Mhm.
can see, this is our soapbox. This is our soapbox that we will always, what's that saying? It's like this is the mountain that I will stand on, something like that. But we're never gonna, I don't think we're gonna change our minds about this stance of alternatives to a 4-year. And it's just to consider them. We're just asking to consider
Consider.
them. So hopefully this is very helpful. We'll probably talk about it again in another year. Who knows? Because it will
Oh,
probably be more expensive to go to 4-year college in a year. So
yeah. And let me just interject this because you'll have one comment that's like, "There's some jobs that you need to go to a 4-year degree for." Yes, we
oh yeah,
agree with
duh.
that. So,
Yeah,
but so you have to throw it out there because some people will hear everything but what
yeah,
you're trying to
yeah. Of
say
course.
before you're like, so just for those who are like, there are some, yeah, absolutely. Like if you want to
Yeah, I
become like
think
a
we mentioned
PA or
that.
something, you gotta go to 4 year. But
Yeah, if you want to be a doctor, you need to go to a
right,
4-year school and you need to go to
yeah,
medical school.
yeah,
Please. Oh no, I think we said that.
yeah,
Well, you're
please,
right. Somebody's gonna be like, "Damn." We definitely said there's some
yeah,
occupations that do not require 4-year degrees. If we didn't say, Kemi said it now. We're saying it now.
yeah.
But you know what? If you want to comment, if you want to engage in conversation, that's great. We love the back and forth. Maybe
Well, good conversation.
good
I
back,
don't
yeah,
like
constructive back and forth.
constructive, productive conversation because we
Because
could
you
be
know
open.
what?
We could hear, something that maybe we didn't see. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was our
feedback.
hot take. So maybe you have your own hot take. But we want the positive, constructive conversation. But it may also help, drive us, the algorithm. 'Cause we're just saying engage with us. We love the engagement. So
Mhm.
yeah, this is our hot take. If you have your own hot take, then yeah, let us know. You can find us on social media on TikTok, on Instagram, Yasin Podcast. You can email us. Maybe if you have a hot take, maybe we'll
Read
make an episode about it. Maybe we'll have you on the podcast. I don't know. But
it.
yeah, we hope this was fruitful. It was helpful. If you're a parent listening or a student listening, hopefully this will start a conversation for you all at home so that you can help your student and student help yourself figure out what you want to do before you or after you graduate. Hopefully you figure it out before, hopefully you have some goals and plans before you graduate. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. We appreciate your support as always. And we'll see you in the next one. See you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to the latest episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and check out our website. Take a look at the show notes below.
And please make sure to subscribe and share this podcast. Also, show us some love and please leave a 5-star review. Catch you next time.
See ya.